Let's start here. Saturday night, Phoenix police responded to a call of a man with a gun. Units requested the chopper, and detectives say as it flew above the scene, the gunman pointed the firearm toward the sky, aiming at the helicopter. Charges in this case are pending. Then Sunday, there was a different call for shots fired. Police sent the chopper again, and this time, detectives say the gunman actually fired rounds into the air, forcing pilots to make an emergency landing. They sat down here in a nearby parking lot to inspect the aircraft. Charges are pending for that suspect as well.
If a bullet hits the aircraft, it could bring the whole thing down. And if that helicopter comes down, it doesn't necessarily fall into an empty field. If it crashes into a neighborhood, it could hit a home.
That was Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell warning about the consequences of a helicopter being shot out of the sky. But there was another case on March 16th, last week. Police say Burton Smith and Dwayne Bryant were firing shots in a neighborhood, and one of them shot into the air towards the helicopter. It was not hit.
A grand jury indicted both men on 5 felonies, including aggravated assault and various weapons charges.
On February 4th, a DPS helicopter crashed during a shooting and standoff in Flagstaff. The pilot and onboard paramedic were killed. Now, there's no indication that the helicopter in that situation was hit by bullets, but it is a dramatic example of the danger that can happen in these situations. Reporting for Arizona's Family, I'm Stephanie Duprey.